Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside while the show is live. But most importantly, if you would like to join the debate, there is a link in the info box below this video. Simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click that link to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are a couple of rules in the Hangout. Number one, please do not swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please do not try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show, as sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. And with that, I will transition across to the Hangout, as we do have Sleeping Warrior waiting in the wings to chat all about, presumably about TFR and the chat we had with them this morning. How are you doing, Sleeping Warrior? Good to have you here.
Morning, Nathan. We're good. Batteries are getting recharged after a monstrous discussion with TFR. It was quite good, actually. Ranty can't make it. He's had to go and pick his missus up from work, so it's just me and thee for a minute. But yeah, it was a good hangout this morning. It was just nice to sit back and put our feet up for a bit, to be honest.
Yeah, it was nice. I'm not going to lie. Being asked questions about things that prove the Earth is flat is always going to be high on my list of things to do.
So, do we know if we're still being boycotted? Is that? I'm guessing that's still in place.
I have no idea. It certainly didn't seem the case on last show. We had guests coming in and able to talk in the Hangout. In fact, we didn't even start up Skype last show.
No, but we did have Ranty on Snipe Patrol in the background, just removing the people. But just so that you're aware, if you join the chat and then you leave straight away, you'll be sniped. It's that simple.
Yeah, if you join the show, just say something straight away when you join. Say hello, 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 and then you won't get sniped by me.
Because otherwise it means that we have somebody sat on being a gatekeeper in the background. And although it's allowed, well, not really allowed, but it's we just turn a blind eye to it. We actually want you guys to come in and debate us on this Isle of Man proof, or any other proof for that matter, because this is the point of the channel. It's a debate channel. And it gives people like me opportunities to present data or evidence that we feel might be strong, and to allow you guys to pull it apart and to see how strong it actually is when it's under scrutiny. And it's the same case for anybody else that's got any evidence that people want to challenge to see how strong it is. Bring it, present it, and then see what happens, see how strong it is. It's an ideal platform for peer review. It should go down in history as a scientific channel for debate, because that's essentially what they're trying to do back. It's all good.
So you're going to tell people watching, because they may not know that we were on TFR this morning.
Okay, so I got a message from what was the guy's name? Was it Adam? I can't remember the guy's name. A guy just said, "Do you want to come on?" Oh, by the way, Nathan, the Hangout link appears not to be working.
I'm just on it now, actually. I just noticed, hence we've gone to the photos on the Hangout. So yeah, I'm just...
Aha.
I thought I'd be slick and get that done without anybody noticing, but clearly you're going to highlight it anyway. Thanks for that.
Sorry.
That's all right.
What was I saying? Yeah, he said, "Do you want to come on?" And I was like, "Sure, people should see this. I mean, it's stood the test of time now. People have come on for like 20, 25, 30 shows. And they've sent round their best. And to be honest, if it's not been debunked after 10 shows, it's probably right. If it's not been debunked after 25 or 30 shows, you can bet your bottom dollar it's not far off perfect. And although Captain BS in chat is saying that you've been debated, Riley, you lost. Your observation has been debunked, son. Better luck next time.
Yeah, dream on.
We've had 30 shows. You know, so 30 shows is kind of like, that's enough for us to know that it's relatively strong. Ali, say hello,
Ali.
man.
Good to have you here. You say hello, Ali? Can you hear us, Ali? Can you say hello before I kick you out? You're on mute
Yeah,
at the moment.
I'm here.
You're real.
You hear me?
Hooray.
Don't kick me.
Excellent.
All right.
That was close, Ali.
Close call.
So yeah, we went on, and me, Nath, Ranty, and Chris from FEC, and we just talked about it. We talked about not so much the evidence; it was more about how the evidence played out over the 30 shows, and they actually had the highest viewing audience. Well, as far as I know, it was their highest ever. And I reckon it's probably because half the trolls were in chat listening or on the show listening. So shout out to all the trolls listening because they gave them the highest viewing figures. But it was just nice to sit down and sit back, put your feet up, and just laugh about some of the funnier moments, like Tufted Trees and the ice creams observation and stuff. And it was just nice. I enjoyed it. I think Nathan enjoyed it. Ranty loved it. And it was just good to be able to express our views and opinions about the shape of the Earth with amongst allies, common allies. Nathan, how did you find it?
Yeah, as you say, it was just like having your feet up. And I don't know, it's only when the audience tell you back verbally how we have come across, you and I, in terms of how we've handled the evidence and our position. It's interesting because you go back and look at them, and initially we were very much on the defensive. You know, we were convinced, but obviously it's not been scrutinised yet. So if no one's scrutinised it, you don't know what your position is, even though you think you know. You can be confident, but that doesn't really mean anything until it comes under scrutiny. And it has been extremely well scrutinised, I would say.
Yeah, I would do as well. It's not been. I mean, I'll be honest. There's been times when I thought, "Oh, maybe this isn't as strong as we thought it was." I mean, the reality is this: even if the evidence that people present isn't as strong as first hoped, it doesn't change the shape of the Earth. It just means that piece of evidence isn't as strong as what one thought it might have been. And on this one, I thought it was strong because I got the gut feeling I was looking at Ireland. And like I said, me, Ranty, Nathan, Chris, we've been talking off air, trying to work through, is it as strong as it looks? And what is the alternative explanations for all these things that we're seeing? And we went through the mill with this one because it was so strong. And we wanted to make sure it was as strong as we could get it. But the reality is, nobody's debunked this yet. I mean, Paper Explanator sat in chat now, and I don't think he's been on the panel at all to talk about this one. And I thought he would have well been on talking about refraction. Maybe he has, and maybe I stand corrected on that. But yeah, it was just excellent to sit down and talk with amongst friends, relaxed. And there'll be an upload going onto my channel of the Hangout, minus the adverts, and minus the other bits and pieces that were in the middle. So just keep your eyes open on my channel for the TFR link, and then I think Nathan will be mirroring it and sticking it on his. But I enjoyed it. It was really nice to sit back and just relax.
How long were you on for, guys?
2 hours.
I think it was 2 hours, yeah.
Oh, wicked. All right, okay.
Riley, your claim that CN Tower photo could have been taken very close to the waves is probably the most dishonest thing I've ever heard come out of your mouth. Well, I don't know where that. I don't know enough about the CN Tower one, where it shows that the horizon is right, like obscuring half of it. But you could replicate that high horizon by doing exactly what I said. And I actually said I'd like to see exactly how that picture was taken. So that's not a reflection of dishonesty. It's a reflection of requesting more information. If you struggle with understanding the difference between the two Paper Explanator, maybe perhaps you should be in a different part of the internet, like maybe Grammar 1.01. You know what I mean? Are we letting Tim in?
That's not Tim. Tim would join with his main account. He's not blocked. He can join with his main account, so that isn't Tim.
How were we? Yeah, so in the meantime, it was just great. But look at the photo, Riley. You can see the waves are many meters below the observer. Well, no, I can't see that Paper Explanator. That was the reason why I said what I said. I'd like to see how the picture was taken because it appears to be very low to the surface of the water, and then zoomed right in. So no, Paper Explanator, that would not be correct. You can't see the waves because you can't judge depth of waves from the angle of that particular photo if we're talking about the same one. But then again, you're blind because you can't see that there's a huge wall of water missing from the Isle of Man observation. So where's the Isle of Man curvature if the Toronto Tower or the CN Tower is supposed to have the same level of bendiness? So
I think Ali wants to present something. So as much as you want to debate the chat, you know, get in here paper if you want to talk with the panel. So Ali's got something he wants to show though.
Are they not boycotting at the moment? No.
Yeah, go and boycott. If you want to boycott,
Or
you're not boycotting if you're in the show.
Go on, Ali, what have you got?
All right. Oh well, it was just that. It was a while back. It was just before Christmas. There, I was just looking at the Soundly videos because it was just a funny thing that if you Google search, just Google Lake Pontchartrain, it just seems to come up with all his videos kind of thing. So what I've got here is what I decided to do was I was going to see if I could get an actual photograph of the. This is what I've done. There's a guy drives round the whole Lake Pontchartrain in a boat, yeah, right. And this pylon here is this pylon here, right? Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Right. So this pylon, they can check it out themselves. You can go to Google Maps and put your little man in the water, and they actually drive past this big pylon here. And as you can see, you're actually seeing the whole pylon. As you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's the 4 stanchions there. I know it's at a different angle, but this is taken lower down because he's at sea level, but you can actually, so there's actually no curvature at all. So you can actually see the whole thing. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that what we're seeing here is a mirage.
It's a mirage. No, this is reflection here because you can see how it goes straight here. Look, and it goes straight here, right? So it's matched up all the way down there to the bottom. As you can see down to here, that's the very, very first. That bit there is this bit here. I know I've not matched it up like perfect, but you can see the whole thing, right? You can count these stanchions up here, right? And there's 4, and then it goes to the top here, and you can match these up. It's the same one. We're 4 with that. It's the exact same one. So if these are disappearing behind the curvature, this one's decided to come up against all odds. Right, and I'll just show you another photo, and you can see this tree line in front of. So let me just go back. These were like photographs that I pulled off, as you can see there. This is actually taken from the road, right? This is just grabbed off Google Maps, and it's the exact same place as Soundly took his video for. And as you can notice, according to perspective, straight lines all the way. Now they can say what they like about it, but there's a horizon. There's no curvature, but I'll show you. This one's also taken from Google Maps. This is taken from the other side of the thing, and I think that's a pylon, but that wasn't any proof there. There's Soundly's bit of humour. This is on Google's Maps here, right beside where he took the photograph, Earth's End. And this one here, look, you can see the trees in front of this here. And also, this is a better one actually.
How you doing? We've got Physics Warrior. How you doing, Physics Warrior? Can you say a quick hello?
Hey Nathan, Riley,
to have you.
Ranty.
Good to have you.
And there you go, there's the trees on the other side. There's your pylon again that we were just looking at. And this is a little bay that comes round here. You can see it in Google Maps. It comes round here. Right? But you can see, as I say, you can see the trees quite clearly here. And that's right next to this pylon that I showed you at the beginning. And one last one quickie. There we go. Right, this is a photograph I found online of the Isle of Man. Not want to go back here, but if you notice, you can see this bit of land sticking up here. Now, if they're going to say that's that last bit of land where the lighthouse sits, you wouldn't see that because that's 51 miles away. Well, it's only 47 because this was taken from a place called Port Knoll, I think it is. It's it's like a little place you can look right across. And if you notice here, right, that's the end there. You can, I think you can just see that, the last wee bit there. But if you look here now, there's more land. I just haven't identified this bit of land yet. And there's another bit separate from it. So this could be the south of Scotland here. And that was basically it.
Absolutely awesome. Thanks, Ali. That was ace.
Yeah, that's it. That was it, guys. So,
brilliant. Thank you for that.
Nathan.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to ask when Ali's finished. Do you want to tell Neg how Lego kills soundly?
Yeah, yesterday's show we had Adam from Iron Rail Media, who was the guy who put us in touch with TFR. He's on their show. So he basically bought up a Lego, what would you call it, a Lego bridge, and basically showed how if you took it with a fisheye lens and then cut out the section, so you cut out a 16:9 section and just off centre, you can't tell that it's a distorted fisheye picture, but you still end up with a curvature on the bridge. So it is easy to fake curvature on things like bridges just by using a fisheye lens, which is, I don't know, that's always been the case though, hasn't it? Fisheye lenses are standard practice in anything globy.
Sure. I think what I'll do here is I'll just share my screen because I just want to show people something that's interesting. Right, so if I share my screen, where's the chat window? There it is.
What Soundly shows is bridges with humps in them that would send your trucks into orbit when they went over them. You know, it's a ridiculous picture. The fact that he's modelled it in AutoCAD, to me, suggests that he's a fraud. He understands the principles of refraction, has engineered them into the AutoCAD program, and knows exactly what he's representing and how he's distorting the truth. In essence, I think Soundly is a fraud. That nickname, which has until now been a joke, I'm more than happy to state for the record now, I think Soundly's a fraud. I think he's literally frauding the evidence. There you go, that's my statement.
Yeah, I think I've got to agree, because if you go and watch some of his videos, there was a strange thing with one of his videos. He was about to pan left. You know that view that I showed you there, where he was looking down at that down at that last pylon kind of thing. On one of his films, he actually started to pan left and then he stopped better of it. He's definitely hiding some stuff, and actually I've got some proof that he is a fraud.
Well, in chat yesterday, somebody that isn't worth mentioning his name challenged the perception that it could possibly be fraud. It couldn't possibly be fraud because he's got a P900 and it does not have an interchangeable lens. However, he did not tell you that it does have a screw thread on the end of it to which you can attach lens attachments. And I wouldn't put it past people on the ball side, because they fake rocket launches and rocket things that they say that they're doing. You can see that the 67mm thread that a Coolpix P900 has, you can buy a simple dome kit that fits over the lens, which would indeed connect to the P900. And yet then you could literally recreate curve the way that they say that he couldn't. So somebody in chat yesterday said that you can't change the lens on a P900. Yes, that is true. However, it's not true to say that you can't attach something to the lens. And this is an example of where this is exactly what you can buy. You can buy 67mm lens adapters that are put on a fisheye lens. So has he done this? Maybe. Any evidence to support it? No. But if I went there myself with my P900 and I bought one of these, I could take what it looks like with one on, take what it looks like without one on, and then play compare and contrast. Would I spend 150 quid or 75 quid on one? No. But I would do like 28 quid on this one. 28 quid for this is going to give me a super wide angle macro lens for Nikon, whatever, 67mm attachment to it. So I mean that these things would plug into it based on what I'm showing you on screen. It is possible. So I just wanted to put that out there for people, that if there anybody out there in America that lives anywhere near, buy one of these and stick it on and go and see if he's using it, because you could recreate it. He's probably bought the cheapest one, but maybe it's the case that he does use one of these and nobody realizes that they exist because they bandy around the phrase, well, it hasn't got an interchangeable lens, you moron. Well, that's true, but it doesn't mean that you can't put attachments onto the existing lens that is already there. So I'm just putting it out there as food for thought because, hey, I wouldn't put it past anybody on the Ball Earth side to lie vehemently because they are liars. All of them. Rumpus, all of them, the whole lot of them. Maybe not Rumpus, he's a little bit more honest, but people like Slice Arcane, he knows. Red's rhetoric's indoctrinated. He probably doesn't know. Probably too stupid to realize it as well. GeoStreamer, indoctrinated. Probably hasn't realized. But the older people that are older in life, more wise. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely food that they would be considering. Did I miss that person coming in then? No, it's good. Sorry, I thought somebody
didn't see anybody come in.
I don't think, Anthony, that they'll what do you call it? They would admit if they found evidence anyway, you know, that it was contrary to theirs, because they'd be frightened of getting called a retard by all that. See, they've got themselves into a little group now, and they're all frightened actually to have their own opinions. Right?
Well,
so
I mean, what's your view on this one, Ali? We had Miles Davis and Al Kay, both going back up to St. Bees the weekend. And they were going up there literally to try and debunk me in whatever way. So I'm assuming that they're going
to... I have to correct you. Miles said that he said he never went down there to debunk you. He went there because it's the best place to get observations.
Oh, right. So they're not going there to debunk me.
Alki drove 200 miles or 300 miles down the road just because it was a good observation point. The whole of Scotland's full of observation points out into the water. You don't need to go all the way down there. So they're talking a load of, oh, here we go.
Sniper on deck.
Oh, sniper on deck. Looks like we're going to be moving over to Skype shortly.
Nah, I got him.
Oh, you got him. Oh, cool.
So,
you got him, Randy? Good for you, my friend.
Mr. Flatcurve, greetings.
Hello, how you doing?
Very good, sir. Thank you for speaking straight away.
That's all right.
Yeah.
It helps. What I was going to say was, my question is, and it's a hypothetical, but it's basically true. If Al Kay and Miles Davis went up there to either validate my experiment or debunk me, whichever, and when they come back, they spent an hour on a video about wind turbines and how it conforms completely with a globular spherical Earth, and failed to tell us anything about the claim that I was at whatever height and that whatever. I mean, the key point was, what was the height I was at? That was a big issue of contention. And also, what could I see? And what was that? What we were seeing? Was it Isle of Man or what? And there's been nothing on it. The point was, what was the height?
Been joined by Tim Osman. How you doing, Tim? Can you hear us?
Timmy.
He's muted himself.
No.
And he's gone.
Well, he's used, at least that troll has tried to use Tim Osman's real avatar this time, but, you know, Tim Osman would join and speak. He'd want to be here and say something. Anyway, as you were.
Yeah, so my point is, they've gone back to the exact hill that I was on, right? And bearing in mind now they're saying that they weren't trying to debunk me, but they went to the exact same hill. So, come on. I mean, I don't know where Miles lives, but they've gone out their way to go to the same hill I went to, and they released a snippet of information. But what they didn't release is what's the most important, because they didn't release the evidence that basically they failed and could not get, which was they couldn't reproduce my experiment results or my observation results, because they claimed it was the Isle of Man that we were seeing. But in fact, when they've gone there and done it, they can see the Isle of Man, but the other land that we're talking about, they obviously couldn't get because they haven't released anything. Now, my question becomes, why have they not released it? Because wouldn't it be honest and sincere of a baller to go back there to try and say what the truth actually was? Because, I mean, it could be the case that we were wrong, right? We could have got it wrong, and it would be a genuine innocent mistake because we believe we're looking at Ireland. But wouldn't it be truthful, honest, sincere to go back and repeat the experiment and then say, actually, we went back and Riley appears to be right. We couldn't see the land that Riley did see. And that would support his assertions that he was, in fact, looking at Ireland. They haven't released that information. Why would it be that they would withhold that information that's damaging to their claim? Is that honest? I'm going to claim it's not honest. I'm going to claim that that's a deception because they've lied by omission. They're liars.
You can tell. Most of that video is about the wind turbines.
Yeah. They got an hour's worth of a hangout on the turbines.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah, I was just gonna
Hey,
agree
Sean
with
G,
I was
how
just
you
gonna
doing?
agree
Can you hear us,
with
Sean?
that.
Straight on mute, probably a troll. See, people
Has
who
he
go
left?
straight on mute give themselves away by going straight on mute.
Oh, he's
I know,
gone.
you did try and say something. I'm sorry, Sean, you've got to be quicker on that.
If you're going to join, make sure you got your mic open when you join, because it is going to be the case at the moment that we know there are people out there trying to get in. So make sure your mic's open and you speak straight away.
When I entered myself, I got a massive delay, so I only caught the end of what Riley was saying, but I tried to talk as fast as I could, so that might be happening as well.
I'm sorry, Sean. If I've booted you incorrectly, please try and join the next show. I didn't mean to. I did hear you talk just as I clicked eject. Sorry.
You can actually, Nathan, I think you can actually invite him back in. If you go to that back chat, and you can actually invite him back into there, and he'll
That's
be
the
unbanned
thing.
again.
I'm not in the back chat. It took a very long
right.
time to
Well,
figure out how to
Anthony
not be,
too.
but I'm not there, so I can't do that, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending on how you want to click it.
No, all right. But the fact is that as you say, Anthony, they went all the way down there, took loads of video, and now they've not really. It's been a few days now before they've even come with anything. So what I'm thinking is they've handed the video over maybe to that rumpus and that fake physicist, Paul, whatever his name is, that
Secondary school teacher.
yeah. And now they're going to rip it to what they'll do is they'll spend the next maybe week going through all the points and stuff like that. But as I say, if they had found the evidence damning, they would have been straight on. You know what they're like. They would have been waving their Jubilee flags and everything, man, flying about the place. Look, we've got the proof. But the thing about that, they will never be honest, because, as I says, they've insulted so many flat earthers, right? They've put themselves into a box where they can't even disagree with each other. Otherwise, they just get castigated out of the community. And they've burned their bridges with most flat earthers, calling them retards. They'll just be all alone. So they're just weak-minded, weak-willed people. So they're just going along to argue, to agree.
Yeah, you know when you did the QED, Lewis was doing a hangout separately, and as soon as the QED finished, I think it's Mark Taylor, went in. He's like, "I don't give a bleep. I don't give a bleep." Yeah, giving it like that sort of mentality, like a mob almost. It was quite funny to watch.
Oh, right, he just wanted to deny, because up until that point, when we did that live, nobody knew that, well, a handful of people knew that Ranty had found that diamond. So without knowing that, if you'd watched it and you were a Glober, your heart would have sank when you zoomed in on that lighthouse. You know it would have.
I can only imagine they haven't watched the video because they know what's there already, and that's why we're getting stupid questions.
Maybe. But yeah, undeniable.
So, Nathan, let me just view the profile of somebody before I give this person any attention whatsoever. Let's have a little. Oh no, he's got subs. Right, I'll address him. Zana in chat says, "You guys cannot be serious with discussing things with Sleeping Warrior. The man is a complete retard. He literally says, if you have 2 ice creams, this means you have no ice creams. Lol." Do you want to explain to Zana what my point was with that, Nath?
Yes, presuppositional arguments. If you do as Rumpus did, he would explain how non-standard refraction works, and he would start it by saying, right, assume you're on a sphere, and from that point, you're already standing on a sphere when he has the explanation for it in mathematical terms. So he's already got you on the sphere before you've done anything, with the presupposition that you're on a sphere. So it's a presuppositional argument to say that you're on a sphere and then explain how the light works on that sphere, especially in a debate about the shape of the Earth. It's absolutely ridiculous, outrageous, and basically I wouldn't let anybody get away with it. And the easy to digest for the idiots example was, if I've got 2 ice creams and you've got 2 ice creams, how many ice creams are there in total? Well, in reality, which is what we're talking about, there's no ice creams. It's just a hypothetical question about ice creams. Well, hypothetically, we've got 4 ice creams. In reality, we have none.
So the answer really is none. But it's the same with refraction. If we stand on a ball and we accept all the bendy light malarkey, then yes, in theory, we could bring things back from behind the ball, but that would then make what we're looking at a mirage, a hologram. So if it's a hologram, it means that we're not looking at real world. But the question becomes, are you looking at real world, or are your eyes being deceived by a hologram? And I can pretty much work out the difference between a hologram, because we see holograms frequently when we go to the movies, or you get them on sticker packs or whatever. And I'm not looking at no hologram. I'm just seeing it. It's not.
Yeah,
it's not a
Neg
reflection mirage.
Neg
It
says in the
is
chat.
what it is.
As Neg says in the chat, you presuppose something in order to see if that's the reality. And yes, that's correct. That's exactly what Rumpus was doing, presupposing the ball in order to validate that that's what's happening. But what he has to do is convince people they're seeing bloody holograms. Not only that, the holograms are graded perfectly all the way along the coast. Now, he could almost get away with people believing him. You know, you've got to suspend disbelief completely, Neg, in order to believe that nonsense. But when you introduce Ireland into the equation, you really can't get away with it. And when you introduce a lighthouse that's sat below that band of refraction you guys are co-opting to claim that things are coming back from the curvature, you can see where the refraction lies and what effects it has on the image. And it's, what's the word? What's that special word, Anthony? Negligible. That's the one. Yeah, negligible, Neg. Very little refraction interfering with anything that we see on the flat plane. The obvious and observable flat plane, the only plane possible to make that image, because without it being a flat plane, as was demonstrated presuppositionally by Chris on Flat Earth QED, when you model it with a globe, it fails. Fails completely, Neg. None of the observations match up with a globe, because we're not on a globe. We don't have to presuppose anything, we just see these things because they're there, and the actual reality is that they only can be there if we're on a flat plane. Unless, of course, you want to believe you can see your own arse around the curve of the Earth that you presuppose exists. Me, that's nonsense. I see that as stuff of fantasy. Well, that's what I've been labelling you idiots. Fantasists. If you want to believe in holograms and bendy light going around imaginary balls, then that's up to you. Me, I just see stuff and go, yeah, I can see it. It's there. End of explanation. No further explanation required. If you want to get into the nitty-gritty of why things get smaller in the distance, that's very easily explained with perspective. You can also use a tiny bit of refraction on occasions that normally we have things that you guys call curvature. Now, in reality, that is where you have the adverse effects of refraction being brought into play. What we have is minimal, if any, refraction in most of the image. 99.9% of that image has zero refraction. There is the teeniest of tiniest bands, and it's useful. It's useful to place things in the foreground, it's useful to place things in the background. If you understand the effects of refraction, you can detail them and evidence them in the image and use them to your advantage. However, when I took the opponents of this image in terms of its representation about reality to go and find and demonstrate any, and I do mean any, examples of non-standard refraction, we got absolutely zero. So we didn't get any examples of non-standard refraction. All we got was maths. We didn't get anybody take us to the image and say, look, this is a clear example of this village and the town next to it and the farms above it and below it, all being miraged up around an imaginary ball. We had no examples of that because there wasn't any evidence of that, I'm afraid, Neg. None. Zero. Nada. Unfortunately, it is a flat Earth image because we do live on a flat plane. You don't have to accept it, Neg. You can continue to be a fantasist and believe, as Rumpus demonstrated mathematically only, that you are looking at holograms. That's your bag, but I'll call you a fantasist, buddy. Sorry, you be a fantasist somewhere else, because I don't like fantasists. I'm a realist.
I need to comment to paper explanatory. There's no, Nathan, presuppose that we live on a flat plane, then the maths breaks down immediately, capitals. Well, I remind myself of two examples with the Rumpus and GeoStreber. GeoStreber found land masses based on mathematics, which didn't represent the reality of the evidence that we were looking at. There was a missing town next to the farm that he claimed it was. So that's one example. And the other example was with the Rumpus. Rumpus claimed that right at the beginning, he claimed that he can calculate any building now that he has the maths. And when it was put to the test, he produced evidence, or he produced his mathematic calculations to identify a particular thing. And when we cross-referenced it again to the evidence, it failed to match. So the reality was he then got forced to change his position because, quote, I'm being advised or I'm being told that I might have miscalculated. Not that he was wrong, but he was being told that he had miscalculated. Now, if the mathematics breaks down on the flat plane, there's two examples where it failed on the ball earth maths. But secondly, the fact that that Rumpus was being fed info from somewhere because I'm being told was his words tells me that there was a huge collusion going on behind the scenes here. So Paper, the maths breaks down immediately on the ball because there's loads of reasons. We demonstrated it in the Hangouts. People were getting the maths wrong and then having to change the position. So on the flat earth model, the maths is straightforward and it works. It was modeled and it matches the example. We showed how it failed when it was modeled on the ball. So I don't know where you think or why you think that the maths breaks down immediately, but I suggested it works perfectly. You just need to know which maths to apply, Paper, and that probably is the problem.
Well, you don't have to apply any maths. You're looking at something. It's just as simple as that. We know the physics of water, and we're looking across water, and then we see something. You don't need to apply anything. Just see it because it's there.
I think you might be talking about other aspects of the evidence. You know, like when we're trying to identify a particular spot on the calculator, they want to know how many pixels away from it is to try and calculate a bearing and stuff like that. Yeah. Well, that's all right if you've got a continuous scale, but the scale was variable because it was supposed to be dropping behind a curve that wasn't there. But also, you're looking down the length of the island. You're not looking across the width of the island. You're looking down the length of it. And I think that makes a big difference to the perception of scale. But in any event, the maths was demonstrated to fail immediately when Rumpus was in chat because he had to change his position, and so did GeoStreamer. And I don't know where we're at with regards to apparent debunkings, but as far as I'm aware, there ain't nothing coming back from anybody at the minute.
Great answer from someone in chat. Just looking is not how it works. Well, yeah, that's absolutely what you must accept if you're a Glober. Just looking doesn't tell you where anything is. Everything that you look at is in a completely different location if you live on a globe. Everything's being miraged up if you can see it at any distance. So, you know, you can accept that you have to analyse things in order to understand what you're looking at because you're a fantasist and you must think that everything around you isn't where it is and being miraged up and holograms. You have to accept that. I don't have to accept any of that. I can just look at stuff, walk towards it and watch it get bigger by the rules of perspective. That's it. That's the end of it. Nothing else to apply.
Look at Captain Bullshit's stupid comment there. If you have two ice creams, you would have two ice creams. No, Captain Bullshit. The word if it's one or the other. It doesn't mean it's a statement of fact. It's a position of options. If one or the other. So if you have two ice creams, you don't have two ice creams. So if you have two ice creams, you would have two ice creams. But you don't have two ice creams, do you?
Yeah. And the direct translation into this example, if we lived on a ball, it would necessitate a wall of water blocking our view with things that we obviously see. And that presupposition that there is a wall of water blocking my view is laughable. I can just laugh about it. Yeah, you can see a wall of water if you want to. You can believe that you're tipping back around the curve of the earth and targeting, literally angling your camera down to look through walls of water to see something. Or you can believe that you are looking at 90 degrees, but everything's miraged up around the hologram of this bendy light earth that we live around. Nonsense. You know, you can believe whatever you like. Everyone's welcome to believe that crap if they choose to. It's just not my crap. My crap is you see things because they're there. And the very fact that we have wars and people shooting at each other pretty much implies that that's the case. People look through scopes at stuff and shoot at it. You know, they're not having to factor in mirages. You know, you have a tough enough time explaining to us that they factor in Coriolis. Complete nonsense that is. Now, if you want to factor in mirages, you go ahead, my friends. But the layers of bullshit are getting a bit too thick for most people to swallow by now. If they're going to start believing that everything they look at distance is a hologram, they're going to start questioning their reality a bit more, because most people just look at stuff and accept that it's there. Most people don't apply any maths when they look at stuff, because that's not what we do. You look at stuff and your brain processes it. You know what you're looking at. Occasionally, your eyes are tricked by things like mirages, but those tricks, you can see them, especially with a decent camera, and you can examine them in great detail, as we have done on the Flat Earth side when making our case and evidencing our examples. So, you know, you can say you don't use your eyes and you can't explain what you see, but we can, and we have. It has been demonstrated.
Nate, can I ask you a straight question? Yes or a no? If Chris joins the chat, the panel, would you, quote, berate him?
Who's Chris?
Chris 19, whatever, the guy with Roman numerals.
No, I wouldn't berate him.
I'd
Hey
welcome
guys,
him.
I'm sorry to interject. I have like 8%. I'm going to die, but that means I have to go pretty soon. But I just wanted to just shout out and just say congratulations, guys. Great presentation. Nathan, brilliant with your show. You were able to get everybody involved, not just the flat earthers, but also the people also that's in the healer side and give the actual math, you know, because I definitely would like to see, you know, what the calculations are. And from right now at this point, I pretty much have an idea exactly what the behavior is, how this refraction is working. But anyway, a shout out to Nathan, Riley, Ranty, even Paul. I mean, he did a great job of presentation, and also Spurs. But yeah, I just wanted to say take care, guys.
One Stop's going to snipe us.
Thank you.
One Stop's got into the show. I couldn't catch him in time.
I've got him. It's okay.
Oh, excellent. It didn't take long for the
care,
oils
guys.
to get wheels to get oiled. More like.
Thanks for stopping by, dude.
Thanks. Good to have you here. Hopefully you can hang around till your battery dies.
Bye-bye for now, pal.
No,
And,
Chris isn't interested. He's calling people fuckwits in the chat and basically saying he's boycotting. They're calling themselves the Globe Earth Realists, which they're not. You know, most people who think they live on a globe just go about their daily lives and don't give it a second thought. You know, these people are not Globe Earth Realists. They are anti-flat earthers.
Mr. Hang on, how many subs has he got? Is it worth responding to him if he's got... Go to his channel. He has 6 subs. For me, that's the threshold met. Was Chris the one that Nathan changed the rules on and banned him immediately? No, is the answer to that question.
Nobody's banned.
Well, there is one.
No, nobody's banned. The link is literally open to anybody. Anybody can join the show. Literally anybody who is watching now can click on the link and join. Yeah, anybody. They can join and distract.
I'm relieved.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't change the fact that I can boot anybody, but by the same token, there's only one rule, don't swear.
Ask him about the time he lowered my audio levels. Is that Chris, that with the Roman numerals? Is that the same guy that's Al Key?
No, different guy.
Okay.
Yeah, when you
Ask him
continually
about the time he
interrupt,
lowered my audio
Chris,
levels.
that's what will happen. If you continually interrupt, and I say to you several times, stop interrupting, you're being distracted. You're just trying to distract with nonsense. Plus, I think Chris is the guy that continually heavy breathes down his microphone. So that's a good chance I just turned you down because you're a bit of a mouth breather. So try not to breathe down your mic, and I might not turn you down. The other thing Chris does is just laugh. He hasn't got anything to actually say, just laughs when people are talking, which cuts the audio from his mic, from their mic to his mic. So again, another reason why I'd probably turn you down. But, you know.
Pete Shea.
Is that the real Pete Shea?
Yes, right?
Good to have you here.
How you doing, Pete?
How you doing, Anthony? How you doing? Good talk to you. How long? I've been you lately, but
can you lower your bandwidth, Pete? So if you're on a PC, Pete, just click on the what looks like a volume control at the top. If you move your mouse over the Hangout, third cog in, or next to the cog, you've got adjust bandwidth usage. Just adjust it down to the minimum. You're not using your camera or anything, but you're all choppy. We can't hear what you're saying. So just adjust bandwidth usage down to the minimum.
how does that sound?
Perfect.
Better.
Excellent. Well, listen. I mean, who are we trying to convince here? We've known for the most part Earth is flat, stationary, sort of moving on with everything. But something that you have done with these shows has it been so open, it's been transparent. This core truth come out, and for me, it's again, I think, the historic sort of who's categorically that the Earth is stationary. The globe is dead.
We can't hear a word
That's
you're
a really
saying,
bad
Pete.
connection.
Yeah, you've got a terrible connection. I was going to introduce Dawn, but he's dropped already.
Okay, let me go on mute a second. Maybe shut down a few things here.
If you want to retry and join Dawn Treader UK, you're welcome if you want to.
Was he not a troll and like joining and leaving?
Dawn Treader?
Probably.
Well, no, Dawn Treader's joined the show and spoken before. He's the troll that got the floor. Do you remember?
I know, but was that the real Dawn or was that a troll Dawn?
I don't know. I would eject him from the back chat anyway because he didn't join and say anything, so he's got no purpose being here.
Yeah, there's a really good question. Chris, Roman numerals, says, why can't you see Ramsey, Riley? Well, you can see in the evidence the reason why you can't see Ramsey. So go and look in the evidence and then come back with the answer. It's self-evident by the evidence, Chris, which is one of the points that should have been brought up in the 30 shows.
Well, anybody's welcome to bring up anything if he wants to join. There's still going to be people like GeoStree, but they're a bit slow on the uptake, that don't quite follow the argument quick enough and then present the exact same crap argument again. That's fair enough. People are going to want to do that, and we shouldn't really stop them.
Have you had any response from the main protagonists here? Let's say Rumpus or Paul Voigt or Miles Davis. Have you had any categorical response? They've been pretty quiet, right?
Well, they're on protest at the moment, aren't they? So they're not going to give us but they're what they call protest is like what they call curvature. What we call flat is like calling them retreating. So they're saying it's protest. We're saying it's retreat because they've got nothing.
It's the best they can do, right? But listen, I remember dealing with Rumpus last year, and the exact same issue came up with Miramar Beach footage, a group of islands about 30 miles out. And after all the math, after everything, the only thing they could shout, Negator remembers this in chat, was mirage. You have to deny your eyes, right? And when you're dealing with people who get you to deny the very basis of our existence, I guess, is one of the most core faculties that we rely on. So when you're fundamentally at odds on agreeing on such basic terms, there's no room for any progress really. But yeah, what you have done is categorically proven that the Earth is flat. So what you should be doing is sending it out across the board, giving no sort of media agencies or anyone like that an excuse to overlook this sort of thing. Yeah, it's pretty historic. And to see Ireland, let me just say, I went down Google myself, or not Google, yeah, Google Earth, and it's clear that you can see Ireland, right? There's nothing else it could be. But these deniers, they've shot themselves in the foot, Pontchartrain plimsolls and all, Anthony. And well, again, it's so open and transparent. The truth is there for all to see.
Yeah, I mean, the Pontchartrain, I'll have to give a shout out to the Pontchartrain boots. If we really did live on a ball, I'll share my screen briefly. We would all need to wear special poncho boots. So if we really did live on a ball the size that certain people from that area of the woods tell us, we would need special poncho boots, and nobody has poncho boots. We all have flat sole shoes, and that's literally how ridiculous that the poncho boots joke is, because it's laughable. I mean, I've got to the point now where I can just laugh at these people. These people are just ridiculous.
Well, I believe that New Orleans, as part of a sort of a legal requirement, legal cover, they have booths set up along the road to Lake Pontchartrain, and you can pick up like your sort of free pair of curved plimsolls as you enter the area, and then you can just deposit them in similar booths as you're leaving the area. So,
how you doing, David? Can you hear us? Hello, David. Hello. Can you hear us, David?
Yes, sir. How y'all doing?
Excellent.
Nearly had you then, David.
Nice icon.
Hey, I've been talking to these ballers over there on Lewis's channel.
Cool.
We
How you getting on?
We came up with an idea for you, Riley, and I've been trying to work with them to get everybody back online over here. But what do you think about using signaling mirrors?
To achieve what purpose?
Well, to film the flash of light. See, the problem that everybody's having is that they don't believe the height that you're at, and there's just a lot of discrepancies, or they say there's a lot of discrepancies, and I'm just trying to. I've been talking to them, and we were talking about signal lights, that if you could go to that lighthouse and get, because they were talking about there's another guy that lives over on the Isle of Man and film the flash of light.
David, you've not been keeping up to date with the flat Earth debate, have you, David? Come on. I mean, light bends according to the model, so a flashlight wouldn't help because it would be subject to the same bend that the normal light would be subject to, so it would achieve nothing. But even if the observer height was an issue for them, they need 2 miles worth of observer height for us to see what we're seeing. So they're arguing over the observer height over what, 50 feet, 100 feet. They need 4,000 feet to match what we have. So
I understand
what they're doing is trying to muddy waters on something that's categorically straightforward. There is no curvature, and the amount of curvature that's missing is miles, not a few feet, not a few kilometers, miles. So
but there is a source you can go to, David. There's a source that, I mean, obviously this isn't something that Anthony can pull out of his ass, so, you know, but there's a guy who's been there. I'm pretty sure he'll have measurements and GPS coordinates. His name's Al Kay. He's been up there with Miles Davis. And obviously we're all talking about this subject, so they've gone up there with an intent, and I think the topic of discussion at the time was the height of his observation. So I would definitely hit Al Kay up. He'll have that information. He hasn't given it to anybody, but he'll have it.
And I don't think he'll give it to you because it's probably, I reckon, I mean, I'm no expert on heights, but Ranty said to me, have you ever worked at heights on ladders or out? And I said, no. He said, when you're on ladders or working at any height, it always feels double what it actually is, because we don't have a depth, we don't have a height gauge built into us. We judge distances laterally, we don't judge them vertically. So if you're on top of a ladder looking down and somebody said, how high do you think you are now? You'll say, oh, at least 30 feet. And when you actually get the tape measure out, it's usually about 15 to 20 feet. So you've doubled what the perception is. You've doubled the height based on your perception. And Ranty said it's exactly the same with this. He said, if you've got no experience at working at heights, you will think that it's a lot taller than it actually is, which is what every troll baller did. Everybody said it looks a lot higher than what it actually is. And the truth be known, it may be, but it doesn't matter because it's what Google Earth says, is that's what a flat earther is trying to prove is wrong. So we're trying to prove that Google Earth is wrong, and it does it beautifully. So it doesn't really matter what the observer height actually was. What really matters is, does it do what the model says? And the answer is a categoric, massive, humongous no. So, David, don't let them get you into a corner with muddy waters. They're missing 2 miles worth of curvature, huge amounts of curvature, and they're trying to nitpick with, well, we think you're at least 100 feet of height. Well, so what? You need 2 miles of observer height to see what we're seeing. That's the bit that they're muddying the waters with. So while they're telling you that it's unpersuasive or that it's incomplete or whatever, reality, no, there's a massive wall of water missing, boys and girls. And they haven't accounted for that at all. Nobody can explain it. They have to talk about bendy light and all that. And we've had Rumpus in over and over and time again. And it's nonsense. It's complete nonsense. And even if it was true, they haven't proved causation in any event. They've simply suggested it with mathematics as proof. And we've shown that Rumpus changed his position when presented with evidence contrary to the maths that he relied on. And GeoStreamer did the exact same thing. So the maths, and it's nonsense. They're trying to muddy waters on something that's like, it's just crystal clearly sharp. There's a load of curve missing. They can't explain it. That's really the problem.
It's well, the thing is that when they're saying the light bends, right? Light does bend, but it doesn't arc. It deflects, it reflects, and it refracts, but it refracts at an angle of incidence depending where the light is when it hits the medium. It doesn't bend in an arc, and that's where they keep going on about it. It doesn't bend, and I'd like to see if people are saying that it does bend like that. Let's see an experiment to prove it. We can show experiments of light refracted at angles of an angle of incidence, right? We can see it come off at a 45 or a 25 or a 5 degree angle and then continue in a straight line. But we don't see it curve as in arc. So that they're using that bend. So light does bend, but it doesn't bend in an arc. It just refracts at an angle, or reflects at an angle, or deflects at an angle. It doesn't bend.
All their calculations are based on a horizon at 2.8 miles or 3 miles, whatever, at a certain height above the ground, 6 feet, say. Now, if this can be shown not to be true, and the work of Wide Awake shows us categorically that the horizon isn't at 3 miles. That's probably the limit of our visual range. And when you bring instrumentation into it, then, you know, this horizon is extended. But that figure of 3 miles is the basis of all of their further calculations. It's irrelevant because there's no reality to it. So if that can be shown to be the case, I've said this before myself, I don't tend to think too deeply about anything to do with a ball, spinning ball Earth. I know it's a non-reality, so you're venturing into a fantasy when you're concerning yourself too much with it. That's the way I realize, because it's not part of reality, it's not part of truth. And again, you've just proved it categorically for the world. How many shows did it go on for Nathan? 100 and, you know, excellent ploy in one sense, because again, all the main ballers participated, and their tactics, their sort of underhand ways have been made clear for all. And then there's a conclusive, irrefutable proof at the end of it all. It's beautiful, and how fitting that it's the I love man with the capital of Doe Douglas, right?
Doe Douglas.
It's like Soundley's stuff. You know, do you disagree with all of Soundley's?
Well, Soundley's stuff's at 16 miles, and this observation's at somewhere between 85 and 140 miles. So that puts Soundley's into a very small area, and we're talking like nearly 10 times, just over 10 times, because just under 10 times. Soundley's at 16 miles, and we're talking about 140 miles, and it's flat as a pancake. So yeah, that I mean, judge it for yourself. If Soundley's showing that we live on something the size of a basketball, yet evidence that's 10 times further shows that it's flat as a pancake, it must tell you that Soundley's not quite showing the real world that we live in. However,
before you get into tearing Soundly a new one, I'm just going to do a very quick link because we've had about an hour on this broadcast. So if you're new to this channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. We've got a new guest who's joining, presumably just waiting for me to do this link so he can snipe the show. So bad timing for you, my friend. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside the show while it is live. But most importantly, if you'd like to join the debate, probably wait till I'm not doing a link and make sure you say something when you join, but simply click the link in the info box below this video to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are a couple of rules in the Hangout. Number one, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the show using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next show. If you haven't already, please share the show, as this increases the live audience, of course, but that in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. There is approximately 1 hour left on this live stream.
Okay, Turbo Tim 129, girly ankles guy. He asks, when am I going back to repeat the observation? And I answered that I don't need to go back because Miles Davis and Al Kay have gone back and failed to repeat the observation. And that validates the experiment or the observation from my point of view, because they failed to show that the land that I was looking at was Isle of Man. That failure showed that the atmospheric conditions were not as nice as what they were for me, and therefore it proved that I was in fact seeing something significantly further away. I don't really need to go back. I will be going back, and I will do it. However, there is no need to, because it stands on its own. It stands in its own footprint. It stands on its own merits. Nobody else has been able to prove that the land that we were looking at was in fact Isle of Man. Whereas what else? There is no other land it can be. So girly ankles, I will be going back, but there is no need for me to go back. It's already been proven by Miles Davis's failure, just like George Airy's failure.
So you've departed completely from the possibility of a ball or any sort of curved surface, Anthony?
I think so, because I'm persuaded by that little lighthouse that's 51 miles away, that's on the edge of the furthest tip of Isle of Man. That's like, if there was any curve, that still should have been behind the curve. So I'm leaning more towards it being totally flat. I don't want to say it's totally flat because I can't prove it's totally flat, but I'm moving. Yeah, I am moving against the idea that it's like something that's possibly the size of Jupiter, because it appears to be flat.
I understand your caution, man, and I often clarify this myself. Is, you know, we're very limited in what we can say definitively, but I can say definitively, according to the bounds of our known Earth, everything appears to be flat and stationary, level and stationary for the most part. Beyond that, you're into speculation. Obviously, wild speculation is what's called for even. And you know, once you get beyond the basics, again, we have difficulties with the simple questions. And well, what is the moon? What are the stars? What is the sun? What is the bigger system? These are the deeper questions that, well, I think we need to be broaching as well, because I think the answers have been given to us. But yeah, certainly flat and stationary Earth. All these bowlers know it as well. And you know, in one sense, that they all jumped feet first into Soundly's footage, when of course it's anti-scientific. It goes against the grain. You know, it's not repeatable, and it's not demonstrable, you know, in other places around the earth. So to jump in with giving full support is very suspicious. In one sense, I use the term hoisted by their own petards. Is this what's happening? If all illusion has been shattered, then these people are showing up the ridiculousness of the ball in their own way, and maybe that's the part that they are playing ultimately. You know,
Yeah,
that's the way I like to think of it.
I just want to ask Nathan a question.
Excuse my language. Excuse my. It's a terrible word. I'm sorry.
I just want to ask Nathan a question. We see Alex Cat Earth in chat. Hang on, FE Cult Skeptic.
Is that Alex?
No, so someone needs to speak now.
Oh, yes, go ahead. FE Cult, how you doing? Hello, can you hear us? Can you say hello? Yeah. You need to say something if you're going to join.
Did he speak?
No, I kicked him in the end. You know, it's obvious when people just don't want to say anything.
Yeah, you have to join and speak quickly, otherwise you will be potted. But Alex is in chat, Cat Earth, and he's been asking for the beach. He's been saying, show me the beach, show me the beach. So now we haven't shown him the beach because there's no grains of sand to show him from 51 miles away. However, there is a lighthouse that's sat on the corner of the beach. And if there was a real beach there, it would be the beach. So my question is, Cat Earth, are you going to accept that there's evidence now directly contrary to your opinion that we live on a ball and you are actually seeing the beach? Because although there isn't physically sand there, it is the coastline from 51 miles away. It should be beyond a quarter of a mile of curvature. Or are you going to instantly dismiss it because you think, oh, God, they can't possibly be right. I couldn't possibly turn against my religious family because you've been asking for the beach and now you've got it. So what's your position, Cat Earth? Are you going to dismiss it?
He says, you ain't going to bait me, Riley. But it's not trying to bait you. It's a simple question, Alex. The Earth is obviously observably flat, as demonstrated in this image. And Anthony's detailing one particular observation at 51 miles that is literally on the shore. This lighthouse sits on the shore. We're asking, does this affect your paradigm in any way? If not, fair enough. Just say I'm a denier or whatever it is. Maybe that's the answer already. Who knows? We'll see. But I'm interested, Kat, because you've been asking these questions. I assume where's the beach was a real question. So the lighthouse ain't the beach. Yeah, it is.
Okay, so
it's on the shore.
Let's show for the benefit of just Alex why the lighthouse is in fact the beach. I accept that there are no
grains of sand in the, you know, we're talking about the lighthouse light itself being about 8 pixels, and he wants the resolution you want, Alex, is beyond phenomenal. But fair enough, let's show him a high-res image of something that he claims is not the beach. Fine.
So what we'll do is we'll just make sure that there's a line of sight, and in case Paul Voigt's watching, a line of sight means that you can see it without obstruction, and we have a line of sight to the beach. And if we zoom right in, we can see that the line of sight takes us right on the very furthest point of land possible that you could possibly get to. And now we can move that out of the way. And we see what looks like some kind of coffin-shaped perimeter wall. And around there, you see a lighthouse. And the lighthouse sits at 23 feet. And this darkened bit here is where the water goes up to. And the water goes up to here as well. I mean, come on, Alex. That's as good of the beach as you're going to get, my friend.
23 feet. Bearing in mind at the observation point, you're calling that hill that Anthony stands at on the beach. You're calling that 100 feet. This is 23 feet, Alex. So if you're going to say that this isn't the beach, are you also going to accept that Anthony Riley wasn't at the beach on something that you want to call 100 feet? Because this is a lot lower than that. You accept that, right, Alex? Either that or you are literally stupid.
So it's like 20,
stupid.
It's 20 feet up, and you can see that the water literally comes right up to all these different color parts. I mean, that's as close as the beach as you're going to get it, Alex. I mean, what more do you want?
Doesn't it look like a tree stump, right?
If
Doesn't it look
you
like-
had the
I was
sand,
amazed- sorry,
he'd
I
have
was-
another
I was
objection.
amazed
If
at
you
all.
had the sand in that image, he would literally, he's a denier. He's a denier. There's no other words for it.
Does that lighthouse work? Could you film that lighthouse at night with a camera?
I don't think
don't
the
know about
lighthouse
that
actually
with a camera.
functions. That we don't use lighthouses these days, generally speaking.
That's why there's no
Because
convincing.
I've been talking to these guys, and it sounds like since this has been pretty much, we need to come up with an experiment everybody can get behind, and signaling mirrors last night. And if you had somebody out there where that lighthouse is with a signaling mirror, and you could actually film it, I think it'd be
Well, what more of a
something
signal
that-
mirror do you need than literally the dot that is the lighthouse?
Yeah, you got a lens of a lighthouse. What more do you want? Exactly. Couldn't have said it better, Anthony. Literally, that is signalling the light. That's why I call it a diamond. The reason we can see it is because it's catching the light on this exceptionally clear day and shining like a diamond back at us from the tip of the Isle of Man.
The
problem
question
with
is
the
who you're trying
signal
to
light-
convince as well. These people are playing a part, so they'll come back and just deny everything again and again and again. The proof is already there.
Well, that lighthouse is operational, by the way, guys. That lighthouse is operational.
Oh, cool. There's your answer. So, yeah, you could get a light
Yeah,
from
you'd
it.
imagine this evidence that Pussy Earth, I mean, Cat Earth would be
It
swayed
flashes
back to,
twice. It flashes
to the planet.
twice every 30 seconds, and it's white. It's a white light, and it flashes twice every 30 seconds.
yeah, sorry, Ali. I
Right,
was just
well,
saying
that changes things because if it
imagine
flashes
that
twice every if it flashes twice every 30 seconds, and I could probably see that at nighttime if the waves aren't huge, if it's like a normal wave and like small waves. In fact, even if the waves were quite big, I'd see it from that mound. I could probably validate that. So what happens if I got 2 or 3 flashes in 30 seconds? I mean, Ali said it was 2, but Huge Ube is saying it's 3 times every 30 seconds. If I could get a flash pattern at the right bearing distance from that observation point at night time, that would prove that we are in fact seeing that lighthouse.
Well, that's what I said, Anthony. Remember, I was talking about if anybody else can do this. There's a web page called Marine Traffic. What's it called? Marine Traffic. The buoys, the buoys or the lighthouses all over the world, right? As I say, if you go out at night time and do a long exposure photograph, just point it in the general direction of the light, even if you can't see it, and give it a long exposure, and that'll pick up every single bit of light that comes into that camera, right? And you'll be able to see whether the light, instead of like flashing it. I think people should do long exposures at night time.
All right, so 2 things to respond to in chat here. It's a Huge Ube says, if Riley was at 35 feet, you can see it on a globe with about 15 feet blocked of the base. All right, let's put that maths assertion to the test because he's not in. Let's just test that because I know that that's factually wrong. So we'll test it now. Just so bear with me while I pull up a browser because I think I've still got my screen sharing.
Is that a YouTube
Right,
sock? Because that doesn't sound like the YouTube I know.
It's 51 miles and it's 52 feet of the observer height according to Google Earth. And the drop, because this is the new value that we're using, we're not using any standard refracted hidden nonsense. We're using the drop value and only the drop value. It's 1,734 feet behind the curve of the Earth. That is a huge amount of distance, and that's not consistent with the comment that says if Riley was at 35 feet or was at 52 feet, you can see it on a globe with about 15 feet blocked of the base. Well, it's around 1,700 feet. So you can't dismiss the lighthouse on that basis. And the other one was Cat Earth. I want you to show it in your picture. Are you done? Well, we showed it in the hour-long discussion where we showed exactly that it lined up to the pixel with where we were expecting light to be if, in fact, we could see it. So if it isn't the lighthouse, it needs to be identified somewhere else in that area that is perfectly lined up that it is. And it could be the golf hotel next to it. And it may well be. In any event, it's still on the same patch of land. Lines up perfectly. So Cat Earth, no. You prove that it's not what we're saying it is because we've shown that it supports the evidence that it is that because it's exactly where we were looking for a diamond in the rough.
Yeah, we shouldn't see it anyway.
No, it's miles behind the curve. Miles. Riley at 35 elevated needs to be 97 feet of blocking over 31 miles. No, Hute's using the wrong set of maths again. Let's show the maths for the benefit of Hute, because this is where
it's
all
not 31 miles though, is it? It's about 50, is it not?
it's 50 miles. He's using the wrong set of maths. So
let's.
So the distance in miles was 51. The viewer height was 51 miles, and it was 52 feet, wasn't it? That's what we were using. And the only value that we're interested in is this drop. All the other values we're not interested in because it's all nonsense. It's 1,700 feet of drop. So YouTube says Riley at 35 feet needs about 97 of block tower over 31 miles. Right, you're on about Mackle Lighthouse. We're talking about the one at the furthest point left on the Isle of Man. But even if we were talking about 31 miles at Mackle Lighthouse, that's still a drop of 600 feet. And as I say, we're not having this nonsense down here about standard refraction, and this refracted hidden is nonsense. Because if you actually look at this diagram, there is no point in this diagram that identifies where this value that relates
bring
to
the diagram
hidden.
back up. So just for YouTube's benefit, if it is really him, because YouTube tends to be flat
So
Earth
how hard would
orientated.
it be for you to? How hard would it be for you to go out there and film that lighthouse?
He has. We've demonstrated it. Anyway, bear with me a second,
No, I'm
David.
talking about at night. I'm talking about at night and see the flash of the light. How hard would it be for you to go out there and do that?
Well, it's a 2.5 hour
See, the only
drive.
thing that it's 2.5 hours. I didn't know. Realize it's that far.
Yeah, it's a fair. I mean, I don't mind going back and doing anything that anybody suggests, because the reality is I could probably see it, but I don't know.
Hey,
what
Riley, I've been talking to these guys. I just think if there was an experiment that we could agree upon, that everybody would get behind it and then do the experiment. Because I've been talking to these guys and they just act like that for some reason that your experiment is not legit. I don't know. I understand where you're coming from, but
sure, it's down to them to falsify it, David. It's down to them, and they've attempted it, but they haven't released the data. So as I said to you earlier, go and ask LK for the data. He's gone to falsify this experiment, but he hasn't released it, which is telling. You're charging us, but it's already been done. They've gone out with identical equipment to identical spot to take identical observations, and then not released any of it, not told us about their viewer height. They could have confirmed all of this. They could answer all of your questions. You're asking the wrong people. We've got what we've got. They've gone and acquired more, and they're now telling you that we need a different experiment. Would you not say that's very telling?
Yes, sir. But I didn't know about that other part of it.
To be honest, David,
but if I can just before it's on screen. So if YouTube is asserting that you don't need very much curvature, it's not going to be blocked very much. Your observer position, in and of itself, dictates that the globe is nonsense. At no stage did Anthony angle down his camera in order to meet the horizon and then find that the holographic particular point, that in this case this lighthouse, has been projected up from behind the drop in order for it to be visible, which is what is necessitated. If we are talking about holographic projections coming back from around the curvature while you're leaning back at the observation point in order to see it, the absolute necessity is that the figure that we are talking about here is drop. That is how much it is having to be lifted up, projected up from behind the curve of the Earth in order for it to, in this instance, meet the horizon, which was the biggest problem with Morgold Lighthouse. Because if you want to start taking measurements of Morgold Lighthouse, we also see below it. So it's not just measurements of the tippy tops of the lighthouses and bringing them back from behind the drop, because in this particular instance, there's no little wormy, weaselly line of refraction blocking the bottom of the land below that lighthouse. We do see what's below it. It is there. So you've got to bring that back too. And when you start calculating back how much is below the lighthouse, you've pretty much got to bring all of it, the entire island. So it necessitates the entire island to be brought back from the drop. But it gets worse still, because you can see from this diagram, and I'm going to highlight this with my mouse, if I can get my mouse working. Right, so if this is Morgold Lighthouse here, and it's X distance being projected up so it can come into our line of sight, we also have this other lighthouse further behind the curve of the Earth being projected up at a greater rate to meet the exact observation as though it was on a flat plane. So this is being holographically projected up to this point, and then this is Morgold Lighthouse Yeah, and then we also have other observations much further away, in this case 51 miles away, that just coincidentally are also perfectly miraged up, so that from the viewer point, even though there's a much greater effect of miraging and looming and holographic projections going on at this end, we've got the normal, just non-standard refraction amount at this end. So we've got a gradient, this perfect gradient projecting everything up at varying different rates, all perfectly into the line of sight, and it just happens to look like what this line of sight actually is. This represents what we actually see, and it's a flat line. In reality, none of this is occurring. We've not got anything being projected up. Morgord Lighthouse isn't being projected up to this point, and the other Lang Ness isn't being projected up to this point at a different distance, at a different curved diameter. The mathematics to account for this makes it the biggest shit sandwich you'll ever have to swallow if you want to accept that that picture was taken on a globe. In other words, it's too big of a sandwich to fit down anybody's mouth. Nobody's going to accept this crap. It isn't happening. We're just seeing this stuff. All that you need to explain is perspective. Things get smaller as they get further away, and that's precisely what we see. To the point where what we see up on this line, the other lighthouse, is smaller than the lighthouse in the foreground, but it's on the exact same plane, exact same flat plane, because we live on a flat plane.
Nath, Tony Vincento says, Brenda, this has become your typical flat earth echo chamber. Good job, morons.
Feel free to join. Brenda, the link's in the info box. You are free to join. You will not be removed. There are no snipers. We're well on the case. So you're not going to get sniped out by your own side, like has been the case in the last few days. Feel free to jump on. I think even Anthony Riley will welcome you in this instance.
I challenge you, Brenda. I bet you don't have the balls to jump on.
Well, she says someone's blocked her. I don't know how she got blocked.
Mm-hmm.
Look, Nathan put it perfectly there. You have to deny your lying eyes, and and trust the math. When you're talking in terms of systems that use terms, undefined terms like 0 and infinity in their calculations, you can't trust them to anything. Again, we have to hold them to bear to this horizon. It's all based on a horizon being at 3 miles. If it can be shown categorically the horizon is not at 3 miles, then all of their math go out, and indeed that has been shown in spades, right? They're dead. No, I bet you none of them will come in. Come on in, Chris. You do a great Chris impression, Anthony. And is Chris the most boring man on earth? I don't know. I think he might be, but I don't think any of these people will come in. Paper Explainer, come on in, man. They won't do it.
It's Al Key that I'm not sure Chris and Al Key are the same guy. Might not be, but Al Key and Miles Davis, they went up to St. Bees to try and debunk Anthony, and they didn't do it. But they've not released their evidence that shows that what Anthony basically observed. They didn't release. They didn't get that evidence, did they? So they failed, like George Airy's failure. So it should go down as. Should we call it Miles Davis's failure, or should we call it the Miles Davis collaboration with Al K? The word failure needs to go in there somewhere, because they failed to reproduce the evidence that proves that it was only the Isle of Man we were looking at, because that floaty bit that I said was dead difficult to capture on the camera, that's missing from your evidence. Otherwise, there'd have been a video out about it 5 minutes after they got in.
Yeah. How about Davis's dilemma, Anthony? Because he really is in a dilemma, isn't he?
Does refraction work the same at night as it does during the daytime? Seeing a light?
Don't know. We've never seen refracted light at nighttime, have we? That I'm aware of.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because I've been talking to these guys. I just feel like we went through this experiment. Maybe we need to talk about setting up something where there's an experiment everybody could get behind.
That's pointless. It's done. It's finished. It's over, David. Who are you trying to convince anymore? Lewis Hackett.
Renee on. How you doing, Renee? Can you hear us?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we do. We do. You're real. How you doing? Good to have you.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, can you hear me?
Have a speaker.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Hi. I've been trying to ask some questions in the chat, but you don't seem to read it.
Well, you're on now. You can ask whatever you like.
You're talking about a lot about flat Earth, but let's say you're right. The Earth is flat. I'm not exactly believing that, but let's just say that the Earth is flat. What does that mean? I mean, that will change a lot of things, because everything else is based on a globe Earth.
What does that mean? Well, it means that first of all,
what map are we going to use?
The dodo map.
Globe? Of the what?
Planar geometry.
Forget about it.
Could anyone please show me the map of the flat Earth?
Planar geometry. We can use
Go and
that.
find out yourself, man. Go and look yourself for the map. You first
Can you show us a map of the ball?
satisfy yourself
one
that
at
it
a
is
time.
flat and
Don't jump down his
stationary.
throat.
Think through the implications of it. That's what each individual has to do, right?
I have been trying. I found the Gleason's map.
Well, I can give my point of view.
That's not working out. I found something.
If you rotate, hang on. If you rotate the Gleason's map, so Australia's at the bottom, a picture of a dodo pops out. Now, the dodo bird never existed. So, as is the nature of this game, the truth is encoded in ways you wouldn't expect. That's my point of view. You have to change things around a little bit, but fundamentally, you're still dealing with a flat and stationary plane, an enclosure above us, and a fixed and fast relationship between the land masses, which all the land masses are is just the land sticking out above the water. This is all it is. The Earth has been subject to an inundation, and I think there's a greater story there. I've talked about that myself. But for you yourself, just settle on the fact that the Earth is flat and stationary, then work your way through the consequences of it.
Yeah, but what about space? Does that exist?
that was my next thing. NASA would be disbanded tomorrow, wouldn't they, if the Earth turned out to be flat?
Yeah. But what about satellites? Satellite TV, GPS? Is that based on
to Flat Earth 101, right?
So someone give him an answer. One person, just one.
To satellite TVs.
Can I say a few sentences before you answer? I mean, I live in Greenland, and until 2009, we were dependent on satellites to provide internet to Greenland. Today we have a cable, but before 2009, everything was over a satellite.
All right,
we still got parts of Greenland depending on a satellite.
I'd like to respond. I'd like to respond to this guy. I'll start by saying the prerequisite for a satellite requires that there is a line of sight to the satellite in question. And when you get your camera out or your P900 and you follow the line of sight that a satellite dish lines up with, you see nothing in the sky. Yet they expect us to believe that the International Space Station, which is a satellite, is clearly visible. I mean, you can see it without even a P900. You can see it passing the night sky. So my question...
There's a difference between a satellite, a TV satellite, and the International Space Station. It's the size.
Okay.
Hey, can I just... Let me interrupt here, guys. They've actually got underwater cables that supply Greenland. It's attached to America and stuff like that.
Yes, I know, but not the northern part or the eastern part is not connected to that cable.
Okay, hang on. Let's keep
What part of Greenland are you in, man?
I'm on the west coast.
Where is that?
Just above the polar circle.
So you don't want to name the city you're in? You don't want to name the town?
Okay, I'm in Sisimiut then.
Okay, how far are you from Nuuk, UK? How far are you away from the capital city?
I can't remember, about 400 kilometers north. I'm just above the polar circle.
Okay, continue.
So is anybody going to go on to... Just a quick question then. When, do you have cell phone towers?
Yes, we have. We have satellite. We have cell phone towers in this town.
Okay, so could you conceivably, could you imagine a situation where they could just tell you that it's coming from a satellite when it's actually coming from a different source?
Yeah, but what source is that? I mean, I've just talked to a guy. I talked to a guy who's controlling the electricity network on the east coast of Greenland. They do not have a cable there, and the internet is extremely lousy because they're going over a satellite.
Sure, or it could be a very weak, but it could be it could be something else.
Set up a cell phone tower because where they're going to get the signal from.
All right, let me carry it. Let me get back on track. Okay, the satellite requires a line of sight.
I've put a link in the chat there. Go and check that out.
I know we got a lot of cables across the Atlantic Ocean, and I know Greenland Connect is one of them.
And they have transmitting towers, right?
There's
transmitting towers on Greenland.
Tele Greenland, our communication agency, or what you call it, firm, has a cable from
CLS.
From Canada to Iceland, going through Kagodok and Nuuk, and they just extended the cable up to Asiat. But the rest of the cities is either connected by a radio link or by satellite. If you look at a map of Greenland, if you look at the top where Thule Air Base is, Karnak, it's on the west coast, north and west coast of Greenland.
Okay.
They do not have any kind of cable there.
Okay.
They are dependent on a satellite.
Right. Listen, dude. Speak to me. Let's deal with this, okay? Now, I've gone back to the line of sight point because it's important that we have some basic established facts on satellites. They require a line of sight. So my next question is, what do you think your satellite is pointing at that it's receiving its signal from for you to communicate? And then my next question based on that is, do you have any evidence to support your position? And if so, could we see it, please? Because we've never seen any evidence of satellites, and we would like to see some. So if you've got an assertion that involves the word satellite as your answer, can you show us what
we can get a signal. When I was 30 years ago, when I lived in Denmark, we had satellite TV.
Okay.
We pointed a dish at, I think it was called 1 degree west and 5 degree east. That was what the satellite was called.
Okay.
According where they are.
All right. So we've got to the point where we receive a signal. And what now I'm asking you is, what is sending the signal? Because if there's a satellite there that's sending the signal, can you identify?
The satellite is receiving a signal from Earth and then relaying it back to Earth.
Okay. So can you show us which satellite that you're referring to that you believe you're receiving the signal from?
I can't remember what its name. I think it's called Imasat 5.
Okay, so go and find out some research it for us and come back when you know which one it is.
Just Anthony Riley, just humour him and just do a quick search.
That was all over the Earth.
Do a quick search. It's easy enough. Just cursory search. If you can roughly remember the name, you'll probably find it with a cursory Google search and just see what we come up with.
What did you say was the name of the sat?
Imasat.
IMASAT.
One moment.
No problem.
Imasat 5.
Imasat 5.
Imasat Courage.
Am I still screen sharing, Nath?
Not yet. Just let me know when you want to be.
There's some nice cartoons of it.
I need to find my...
Well, we'll get to that. You're as eager as me, Mr. Flat Curve. We know where this is going.
Well, if we look at this page, can I write? I'm not good at the Hangout. This is actually my first time I ever tried Hangout.
Really good that you joined. Thank you.
Most mysterious place on Earth, Greenland. €1,000 for a cup of coffee, apparently. Is this true?
Anthony, can you click the link that Rene is
I just if we look at that side there, can you see that side?
Yeah, I'm on the site now. Nath, do you want to present me?
Yeah, sure.
So perhaps you can show me where I need to look, because what I'm looking for is the thing that's sending the signal.
One moment. I have to take a phone.
Okay.
No problem. We'll have a quick look at the website while you take your call.
We'll be here while he answers his sat phone. But in the meantime, there's a couple of...
Listen, I don't have much time. Is there any way I can return later in a later debate?
Yeah,
because I really,
always welcome.
Really like to know where
Definitely.
I live, because I have followed these debates a while, and all you come up with is there's no curvature between England and Ireland. That's okay, but you still need to prove what do we live on then? If we don't live on a globe, how do we find out what we live on?
Prove it to you, man. I mean, have you not been around? You've watched all these hangouts. Have you asked yourself, how am I going to prove this to myself?
Well, hang on. He said that he's not got a lot of time. So let's wrap this up with. Let's wrap it up because we've got the.
Can I come back later in a later
Yeah, you're
debate?
always welcome. Always welcome. The door's always open. Click on the link again. You'll be welcome back.
Yeah. Okay.
But just be aware when you do come back, we're going to be asking you for what is sending the signal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Great.
I mean, where the satellite is sending the signal from.
Yeah, but we want to see the proof. We want to see proof.
Yeah.
You're saying, you're saying that because you can't see the satellite with a P900 or any telescope, it doesn't exist. Is that your point?
Sure.
Hey, is that real Jibby Jedi or not? Oh, I've got another sniper. Wonderful.
No. What happens?
Nothing. We just
Never mind
people
that.
want to join with other people's names just so they can remove people from the conversation. So, in this instance, you're been very kind to join and discuss this subject with us, and they don't like that. They don't want you to discuss it with us.
Yeah, that's not my problem.
No,
I
you're
agree.
right.
I agree.
I don't think
I really like to come back later on, maybe in a few days. Are you going to have debates in the weekend, Saturday or Sunday?
That'd be excellent. Rene, I'd definitely like to hear what you have to say about Greenland in general. Some people claim that it doesn't actually exist.
Yeah,
I know that.
unbelievable.
How many miles wide and how many miles long is Greenland?
That's for next time, but that'd be excellent.
Yeah,
I didn't know
I'll answer that next time.
Excellent.
Thank you for joining,
depending
Rene.
on what kind of map you're looking at. That's
Just make
strange
sure that
part
when
of
you just make sure when you do come back that you've got some evidence with regard to the Inmarsat 5, because that's the bit that we're really interested in, because we'd like to see it.
It's difficult to get evidence, but I'll try. Yeah, that's the problem because you can't see it. It's so small.
So bring some evidence that supports the assertion that there's a floating tin can in space that sends us signals. That's what we want to see.
I'll try.
Thank you very
Look
much.
forward to that.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much for joining, Rene. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much. You have no idea how grateful I am.
That's the first person I ever heard from Greenland.
Me too, Dave. And I mean,
I'll be back later. Hi.
Thanks again.
Looking into a trip to Greenland, it turns out that they paint a desperately dire picture of it, but it's massively expensive. The likes of a cup of coffee, you're told, is up to €1,000, literally. And there's so little information coming from that country itself. So it's very interesting to hear it. Rene, as that expand
I agree.
and even take questions. Yeah.
Right, Nath, listen, you're being bombarded with questions about EXIF data from videos, from Isle of Man, and it seems to be the same person, but on many SOC accounts asking, why are you fine with Riley refusing to provide metadata? My position is that the metadata is falsifiable, so it actually proves nothing, and given that everybody seems to call me a liar, what value is it? So Nathan, are you okay with Riley?
There you go, I'll address that. So
the
the situation with the metadata came up, and everyone was asking Anthony on one of the debates to provide it. So there and then he went to it, but before he opened one of the files, he asked GemPanda a very specific question. He says, if I open this now and it supports my position, will you reject it out of hand? And the answer was yes from GemPanda. He would reject it if it supported Anthony's position. So at that point, Anthony said, there's no point in me revealing this data because you would reject it out of hand if it supported our position.
Yeah. But my position is it's falsifiable data in any event, and it wouldn't, because there's this big cloud of apparent dishonesty over my head. What value would it be to release it anyway? Because they would just simply say you faked it. So again, I'll reassert my position. There's no point. It doesn't prove anything.
Nothing will prove anything. They can't see a big lump of land to the left-hand side of the Isle of Man, for crying out loud. I mean, what else do you need?
No, they can see a big lump of land to the left. You mean?
No, I don't think they can. I think their brains are blocking it somehow.
Oh, well, Alex is blocking it. He refuses to accept that there's no grains of sand on the beach that we should see, and that's why he thinks that the Earth must be a ball.
Right. Well, there we go.
Chris,
nothing will convince him. Nothing. It doesn't matter.
No, I agree.
So,
Chris,
so Riley, why don't you ask these guys what it would take to prove to them that it's flat? Maybe it needs to be a collaboration of parameters that have to be met for both sides.
Nothing we can do will prove it.
Who are these guys? They're all faceless. This is what I'm saying about being.
It's like Curve Water. Curve Water's a smart man.
Curved Water's
he's
not smart, dude.
I mean, he would be a good guy to sit down and say, okay, here I'm just trying to get it where we could have one experiment that would prove it one way or the other.
People are actors,
David.
Right, remain vigilant. I'm going to try and do my last link, guys. So remain vigilant for a minute.
Good enough.
I'm just going to do a quick link. So bear with me just 2 seconds. Hope you're enjoying the debate. Not a one-sided debate, I'm elated to say, so thank you very much to Rene for joining. Hopefully we'll hear more from him in regards to the satellite that feeds Greenland. If you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, but most importantly, if you would like to join the debate, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video. There are a couple of rules in the Hangout. Number 1, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. If you've not done so already, please share the show, as this increases the live audience, and that in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. There is approximately 25 minutes left on this live stream.
Hi, Eleanor.
She says hello. Say hello.
She's gorgeous. How you doing? Flat Earth baby Eleanor, excellent, excellent. And it was just someone in chat was mentioning there. Isn't it funny that Paul from Liverpool was your man in the Isle of Man, Anthony? Excellent, excellent. Because of course Paul from Liverpool, the Beatles, he's the real Dodo. If you don't know anything about that, well, that's too bad.
I do know what you're talking about. Dodo Pete, you said before that the dodo didn't exist. It was a mythical bird. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Paul from the Beatles is actually the dodo, right? So that's why I'm saying that's funny in itself.
Pete,
but that's a different story.
I've got to ask you a question that a baller would ask in this circumstance. If Pete makes the assertion that the dodo never existed, have you got any evidence of that, Pete? And then from a practical point of view.
The thing is there any evidence that the dodo existed, first of all, Anthony? You see,
exactly. It's like curvature, right? You've got to prove that if the dodo existed, you've got to prove that it existed, right?
Exactly. And we find when you look into it, you find immediately that the representation we have, that doesn't come from first-hand viewing. This comes from a written account, apparently. So no one ever saw it. You know, all the drawings you get are from written accounts. So that's just a part of the evidence. Did you know that the dodo was said to be found with giant turtles and elephant birds? Does that ring any bells? Elephants, turtles. Face of the flat Earth. Look at the Gleason's map rotated around, so Australia's at the bottom. Have you ever known a map, Anthony, where Australia hasn't been on the bottom for a year? Right. So when you do that with the Gleason's map, the dodo pops out at you. That's your clue. I've said it again and again. Once you get the flat Earth, the dodo awaits. There's a sort of a grander puzzle, a grander treasure hunt associated with all of this, right? But that's a different story. But Rene, excellent to talk to Rene there. But I mean, it's the same sort of thing, isn't it? Well, this is how I understand something to work. And if you're saying that it doesn't work like this, you need to prove to me how it does work. Otherwise, I'm just going to stick with this, you know, and it's nonsense. It's nonsense. Satellites, I call them, you know.
Yeah, I agree. If the assertion is that satellites are up there in space, it would be on the person that claiming satellites are up there to prove that they are in fact up there. And from our position, it appears that there are, well, there may be something up there with the ISS. There's probably some up there. What it is, I don't know. But that's about it. There might be the odd plane floating around, taking passengers from somewhere to somewhere, but ain't anything else up there, guys.
What was the old, before we had all the mobile communications, they still had a ground-based, you know, the equivalent of GPS. I just can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, it was called
RAN.
No, not NORAD. It was called
Loran.
Loran's. Yeah. That was it. Lorenz or Loran's. I forget how to pronounce it, but yes, the Loran system was essentially just upgraded.
Yeah. That was long wave, wasn't it, rather than shortwave? I believe.
I think Bill G's got it right from the chat. Loran. I think that's correct.
Loran, yeah. I said
and
that.
They still use that. They still use the Loran system for the ping data for ships.
I've been talking about Clues Forum. You know, the Clues Forum busted apart the 9/11 hoax and all that sort of. But they went on to further things. All the stuff that people are covering, NASA fraudulent and fakery now. Clues Forum and Let's Roll forums. They covered that 5-6 years ago. But they have an excellent site on or an excellent thread on satellites or the lack thereof. And I'm going to post that in chat. Recommended reading to everybody. You know, and it's they talk about all of these different systems in play. And yeah, again, it's just another part of the fakery. Everything you think you know is true. It's false. Everything. It's fundamentally flipped, right? This is what they've done with the truth. And yeah, once you get to flat Earth, you have to start re-examining, re-questioning the very nature of reality and the very nature of your own existence and your place within it. And these are some of the areas I would definitely like to see a lot more talk and investigation into, right? Because this is the situation we're all in. It's one thing, just to finish, it's one thing knowing that we live in a flat and stationary Earth, right? But you can't just stop there. You can't just stop there. There's another great story been told here. And well, this is the story of us all, right? So I'll post that link in chat and recommended reading.
Hey, Riley, would you sit down with Curved Water and come up with an idea that both of you could get behind to prove this thing one way or the other, and put parameters around an experiment?
Would I sit down with Curved Water and come up with an idea? You joking with me? We've already got it.
No, I'm not joking with you. I'm being serious with you. Would you sit down with most of the same ballers were on here at this most of the debates. What I'm wanting to do is to figure out an experiment that everybody could get behind that isn't predetermined, and come up with an idea. It's just like the Isle of Man and that lighthouse being 50 miles away. There's got to be some parameters that everybody could get behind, and then a test be done and prove it one way or the other. That's just where I'm coming at, because all they do is call you a liar.
I don't care.
Just wondering.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if. Go ahead,
right, David. Here's the thing. If I was to engage in any collaboration, right, it would not be with Curved Water, because he continuously misrepresents things I say with things that I have not said. He changes the context.
It would be.
He's fundamentally
whoever you want to on the baller side.
Fundamentally dishonest. I would not be collaborating.
How about Cat Earth? How about Cat Earth? Would you talk to him?
You can't count to 10.
Which one of those guys? Which one of those ballers do you think you could actually sit down and talk to?
Why would I need to sit down with a baller? Why could I not do it for myself and see what the evidence?
But
let the evidence speak?
Because
what do you think,
the problem
David,
is they call
We've
you
been doing
a
it for
liar
30
about everything.
shows.
This is about proving this thing one way or the other.
Sure.
There has to be a collaboration of both sides to come up with the parameters of an experiment.
There's no sides here, David.
Hey, Ranty,
There's no sides here. You have people acting smart,
Ranty.
faceless for the most part. You know,
I just don't understand what David's saying. He's saying, can you sit down with these people? And we've spent 30 shows sitting down with them looking at evidence. They obviously thought it was credible enough to scrutinise. They've scrutinised it and failed in any way to replicate the results on a globe Earth. That's the reality. So we have sit down with them. Now, they could have just disregarded this evidence out of hand. Instead, they've chosen to scrutinise it to the nth degree. And in the end, we have proven beyond doubt that we're looking at a flat plane in the image. Now, you want to say, oh, we'll sit down with them and devise something else. I don't really understand why you're doing this, David.
Well, because I've been talking to them and they just act like Riley lies about everything. So
it sounds like you believe in them.
Sure. I mean,
no,
you
I
can,
don't believe
and I said
them.
this earlier, but they've been to. They're saying, hold on, what they've accused him of lying about, David, is specifics like the viewer position. Well, people from their side who were very much involved with this argument have gone to the exact location, and they can confirm he is a liar with one measurement. Now, they haven't.
Yeah.
I understand. I'm just asking a few questions here.
He's a faceless, nameless antagonist, David. This is the point. None of them will show their face, and they won't do that purposefully, right?
Yeah.
They want their face behind this. If Curved Water, I'm guessing, would be willing to show his face, I'd say Anthony would even be more willing to maybe come up with something, even though he's done it. They've done it. It's proven. It's dead, right? It's finished.
Let me correct you there, Pete, respectfully. I wouldn't do it with Curved in a million years, because he misrepresents everything I say and changes the prose, changes the context, changes the meaning of words. He's the most disingenuous piece of dirt I have ever come across, apart from Sean Hufford. So I would never collaborate with Curved. I would never collaborate with half the Burks that come on here.
He would never show you his face. I would never, ever. That's why I mentioned it as well. But you know,
he would not be somebody that I would engage with in anything that was like scientifically based, because he doesn't understand it, and then claims that I don't understand it, and then somehow dismisses it on that basis.
Well, I mean, listen, Ron Rumpus is just, they're just variations on a theme, right?
Rumpus
is a little bit more honest than the rest of them.
Rumpus is more honest than the rest of them. I agree.
Yeah, but it's a part, you know what I mean? He's just he's filling a different niche. It's like Negator X with the soft spoken, negative, he's just always calm, always methodical, always logical. He's playing a certain role. He's filling a certain niche,
Doesn't believe it because he can't believe it. That's the only reason.
Correct. I think he's indoctrinated.
Exactly.
Not the chance.
I love it how we
stupid, Anthony. There's none of these people that are stupid. And after all of this, this is how I cut them out as well. Let's do a little role reversal. And I'm a flat earther, and I'm a bald earther, and you're a flat earther. Give me the best argument you've seen put forward for a flat earth. And all of them come along and say, "No, I've seen nothing." They can't. At
this point, I want to shout out to. I'm going to give a big shout out, Pete. Now you've said come up with your best argument. Big shout out to slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena. Hope you're out there, my friend.
You have to say there's some excellent troll names out there. That's one thing.
I'm waiting for Tuft of Trees to come in.
Yeah, he was
shout out to Tuft of Trees.
Because that was really funny, to be fair.
The timing was perfect on that.
They must have made that account really quickly.
I could just imagine somebody in a supermarket like going over the when they get the microphone and they shouldn't be speaking into it. Somebody in Asda somewhere going, "Tuft of Trees, phone call for Tuft of Trees."
Calling Tuft of Trees.
So what's the next? Since this experiment's been completed, what's going to be the next subject on this? Are we going to do? Are you going to try to do another experiment, or are you going to?
Sure. I mean, right. This is going to be
the next debate conversation, I guess.
David, let me just address the part that you were asking about the collaboration. The collaboration really would be for you to go to Miles Davis and Al Kay and collaborate with them to find out why it was that they failed to repeat or failed to verify the observation, because they did not get the same results. And the answer is because the atmosphere wasn't as kind to them. It was more thick, the atmosphere. There was a lot more obstruction in the way in terms of moisture. But it would be interesting to see what they would come up with for the explanation for why they couldn't see the same as what I could see. So I'd put it to you that you should collaborate with them to come up with the reasons for why they failed.
Well, here's what I'd say about it. We need an experiment that'll work 100% of the time if the sun's shining. You know what I'm getting at?
Did you miss what I just said? Did you mishear what I just said?
I didn't mishear what you said. That you said that they did the same experiment, didn't come up with the same results. So
yeah. So the interesting thing is, why did they not get the same results if it was Isle of Man we were looking at, and they've got Isle of Man in their observation, but they don't have the floaty land on the right? That's the key bit. So what I'd say is, I don't need to collaborate with them. But if you're suspicious of doubting the whatever the facts are that you're not keen on because they've been saying whatever, I'm just ready to prove this thing and collaborate with them and find out what was the reason, in their opinion, that they didn't get the results they were expecting.
David, look at Nathan's screen here. This to me, it's just as simple as this. This proves a flat and stationary Earth, the sun. What the bowlers must say is, at sunrise, sunset, you're seeing over the horizon at ground level a distance of 3 miles. Now, if it can be proven that the horizon is much further than that, and indeed at sunset and sunrise, horizon extends many, many miles, then the beam, you see the beam of the ray of light on the water, it's dead straight. This proves a flat and stationary plane.
I agree.
That's all you need. When you think about this, think it through, it makes absolute sense. And can I just say, I meant to mention this earlier on, when you were looking over at the Isle of Man and then you identified Ireland beyond, right, then you call it a refractive layer, Anthony. What it literally is it's water, it's zoom, it's distance, and it's light, and it's acuteness of angle. And the water sets up, it's all compressed, and the water sets up as a reflective layer. Okay, and it's a compressed water layer that is a mirror. Okay, I got a bit confused there. Yeah, that is a mirror image. This is what, when you're looking over massive distances, this water layer will always act in the same manner. Again, Wide Awake's work has detailed this in spades, and it's one of those basic sort of it kills the globe again. It kills the globe again.
Yeah,
Once the whole math, as I said, is based on this horizon being at 3 miles. If you can show that it's not, well, then everything else goes out the window. So yeah, look at the sunset here and think about what's happening.
I agree. The reflection down to your feet proves that we are not on a curve, because if it was a curve, that light that would be bouncing off the light right in front of your feet and hitting your eye, that would miss your head because of the curve of the Earth, and it clearly doesn't have a curve to it. So I'd like to know any science that would explain how that reflection can work on a curve, because when modeled on a flat plane, it does exactly what you see in the picture that Nathan's sharing.
Yeah. And if you ever, there's plenty of examples on YouTube, people zooming in at the sun at sunset, you see this mirrored water layer perfectly.
I bet you curved water can answer that question.
He can't. He's just called mirage. That's all he can do is call mirage, you know?
Curved water can't even tell you the time, David. You have a much higher opinion of curved than he deserves.
Yeah.
About 10 minutes left. 10 minutes left on this stream. If you did want to join, click the
link
link in the info box.
What I'd like to see Anthony doing, and not because it's got to do with me, but it's something that can be verified. Now we've looked at the ground, look at the sky. I say you can find the Milky Way on the moon, and I have detailed how that is the case. And I've also located two other constellations, Sagittarius and Scorpius. So yeah, there's plenty of pictures there. These are the things that we can document, we can examine, and we can come to some sort of conclusions about them. And again, it's not just one question that needs to be answered. It's many other questions. We have the Earth sorted out. Let's work on the sky and formulate a sort of a bigger picture. That's definitely what I'd like to see anyway. But yeah, just in terms of what you've done here, excellent. Historic. I think you'll be famous for it. Anthony, Nathan, Ranty, and Chris, absolutely. And I think what you should do is send it off to every, in a compressed, whatever, reduce it down to maybe 30 minutes or something like that. But send it off to every media agency. They'll have no fucking excuses then. Excuse my language.
No swearing.
No excuses then. Every university, every outlet that needs to hear this, right?
Yeah, we're working on it. We were on TFR earlier on today. We're on, what's the one tonight, Nath?
The problem with the experiments is it's not repeatable. Everybody even tells you that you need a repeatable experiment that you can do over and over again. That's what I'm trying to say. We need to come up with an experiment that can be done over and over again and to prove this thing one way or the other.
David, why would you say that my observation is not repeatable?
Earlier that those other guys went down there and they couldn't repeat your experiment.
Well, who do you think we should be trying to convince at this stage, David?
Them not being able to replicate it doesn't mean it's not repeatable.
I think that there has to be something everybody can get behind. I think there has to be parameters set to where both sides have 10 objectives to meet, and if not all 10 objectives are meet for both people, then the experiment's null and void or something like that.
Repeatable, right? So let's apply that to the example where, like, International Space Station is up there doing what it's doing, or the Apollo moon missions, or satellite TVs. Is this repeatable?
No, I'm talking about the curve, though. That's what we're talking about. Is the curvature of the Earth.
So why would you suggest that it's not repeatable? The observation I did. You only need a P900 and a clear day.
Well, I understand that. So maybe somebody else will go out and do it. That's what I want to know is if it can be repeated again. Then what is keeping these guys from understanding? That's what is it just a middle block, or is it?
Yeah.
Or is,
they're actors, agents. What's so hard for you to understand this? They're people put in place.
Yeah,
David, you could fly curved water to the moon, show him a flat Earth, and he'd still deny it. That's the point.
Yeah. And if Alex couldn't see the beach from the moon, he would still deny it was flat as well, unless he could see the beach from the moon.
Have you ever asked those guys what it would take for them to agree with you? That's what I'm asking. Has anybody ever just sat down and say, okay, what would I have to do to prove this?
Do you know what their answer would be, David?
What, it can't be proven?
Yeah, it's a globe. You can't prove it to me. It's a globe. That's what it will be.
You're retarded for believing otherwise. Flat Earth is what does Tim say? A Trojan horse psyop meme. You know, this is nonsense. But again, David, you know the Earth is flat and stationary, right?
I do. I'm 99%, but I just haven't seen that one experiment. I do agree that this is a great experiment, but for some reason, all these other people, they can't get behind it, and that's why I'm wanting to know if there's some way that everybody can collaborate.
Really, I don't get you, Dave. I'm really confused, David. So you're fighting the good fight for flat Earth, and now you're saying, based on the fact that Globers reject it out of hand and want to discredit Anthony, you're only 99%. You're not like, you know,
No,
jumping
I'm
for joy.
100%, but I mean, there hasn't been one experiment that just proves this thing 100%.
Yeah, there has. This is what we're trying to get across to you, David. This experiment has been done, is repeatable, and anybody can go on a clear day and repeat it. And you're saying it's not good enough, we've got to come up with a new one. Well, no.
No,
No. Hold on, let me, David. No. David, no. You don't have to come up with a new one. We have scrutinised this to the nth degree. Now, if someone comes along and claims that it's false, they can do so. Until then, I will stand by it and say, no, if you want to falsify it, go out and falsify it. Find me that lowland and tell me that that is actually what we are seeing. Well, they've attempted it and failed. Now, that's not to say that you couldn't repeat the experiment. You could just go out and take a photograph. I would also further argue that every single photograph ever taken in existence demonstrates the flat plane and could also be scrutinised to the nth degree. Any photograph with a reasonable enough distance in the aperture would be able to be scrutinised and prove a flat Earth. In other words, go and take a picture and scrutinise it for 30 shows for 60 hours and then tell me that that's not good enough proof, that which is pretty much what you're doing, and you're on our side. Whose side are you on?
It's not that, Nathan. I just think that there should be a way that.
No, I'm asking you a question. Whose side are you on? Whose side are you on? Whose side are you on? Whose side are you on, David? Seriously, if you're going to say that it's not repeatable, which is absolute nonsense, I don't get it. I don't understand why you're here. You're here. It seems like you're here to muddy the waters, frankly.
I'm not here to muddy the waters.
Seems that way.
Listen to these
Seems
guys,
that way to me.
like everything Riley has
Seems
done
that way
is
to me.
wrong.
Seems that way to me, David. Seems like you're here to muddy the waters.
David, let me say this to you. Everything they're acting like everything that Riley's done is wrong. Yet 2 people went up there to debunk me, right? And they didn't take GPS coordinates. They didn't take altitude data that they demand from me. They didn't measure anything but a tape measure, which is what they demanded of me. They didn't take anything that they said that they would do. Yet you've got this perception from them that in some way everything that I've done is wrong. Yet they were trying to.
I believe what you've done is right. I just would like to see an experiment where everybody could get behind it, and then
they can. This is one of them, David. I'm going to say it to you again, David. This is that experiment, and you are not behind it. It would seem you are critical and naysaying, and you're telling us that we should be creating a different experiment. Well, no. If the guys who have scrutinised it for 30 shows want to go back and debunk it, they are welcome to. If you don't want to support it and want to criticise it and say we need something new, then I'm going to call you a naysayer and say that which side are you on? And with that, I'm going to say a massive thank you, first and foremost, to all of the live audience for joining us on this debate, which has definitely not been one-sided, and has definitely had a strange turn of events with what seemingly was a pro-flat Earth person being a naysayer to what is an excellent experiment. Unbelievable turn of events as far as I'm concerned. If you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.